what are the common forms of nonfiction am I teaching? So usually I'm teaching autobiography, biography, memoirs, travelogue, novels, which are falling under the nonfiction genre. Um, Usually I teach, for novels, I teach The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Well, everybody knows Anne Frank. And for my students to be able to write, the common strategies that I use, is that they have to write at least a one-page essay composed of 3 paragraphs, and each paragraph should be composed of at least 5 to 7 sentences. Ideally, a senior high school student should write a 1,000-word essay. But in the case of students in the barangay high school, they are not really inclined into writing a well-written text. So what I do, I only require them to write at least 300 to 350 words, and that's it. Three paragraphs in a paper, so they could be able to express themselves. And usually, I ask them to write the experience closer to their experience. For example, if they're living in the farm, they have to write about the farm. What do they see in the farm? Because way back 2018, when I was doing my thesis, it was one of the findings that if a student writes something that is closer to their experience, they could easily write, and they could write fluently, or the ideas are spontaneous. Another thing, I ask them to write their journal every day. So from Monday to Friday, I ask them to write their daily experiences, and I'm checking it every Friday. So a teacher should be always asking the students to write, because that's the time they concretize their learning. Whatever they have read, they will apply it into writing, or they will share it through writing. Another thing, even if my students are living in the barangay, I really ask them to do their blogs, or post their, for example, the poetry, self-made poetry they made, in using different themes. It could be love, it could be about anything close to their experience. One thing, I also ask them to write reflection papers, because that's the time I would realize, or I would learn, that they have really learned something from my class. And I do peer critiquing. For example, I am classmate number one. I'll write my reflective or reflection paper, and then I will ask my classmate to check it for me. But after that collaborative activity, I still check them personally, because really a teacher should be consistently checking the writing activities of students, so that you will be able to guide them, whichever are they finding, or to the fact that the mere fact that a teacher should be, it's really the part of our job, and we should be checking consistently, because each student knows if you are not checking their work, especially the writing activities. And from there, if a student could already write their experiences, out of that, they could be able to write, or compose, or conceptualize their own script. For example, if there would be role-playing activities, or they could produce their own short stories, self-made short stories, because according to the curriculum guide of the creative nonfiction, the learner understands the mastery of the basic forms, types, and genres of what they read. Because really, I believe that the love for reading should be developed among students, because what are they going to write if they could not really read properly? So these are just some of the strategies that I am using in teaching, because commonly what are the struggles of the students is that how are they going to start writing? So what are they going to write if they do not know what to write? So even if basically I also teach how to write the topic sentence, how to write their thesis statement, because that's the time that they could write. I also orient them in the use of cohesive devices. Transitional devices, so they could be able to produce an essay that has smooth transitions from one paragraph to another. We can see the connection, um, organization, coherence, cohesion. These are the usual concerns if we are also teaching creative nonfiction. So, innovatively speaking, if we are trying to adhere to the progressive approach, we have to do the peer teaching. After the peer teaching, if it's not enough or if it's not effective, the teacher should personally do the one-on-one tutoring, because I still believe in being hands-on on writing. Even if it would take you a lot of time, you really have to be patient, because the skill of writing would not be achieved overnight. So as per experience on my 6 years of teaching, I really do hands-on teaching and writing. And whenever we had classes in reading and writing, I am really focused with how to teach strategies in reading for my students. Because before we even proceed to the next skill, we should master the skill preceding the next skill. So in reading strategies, there are different ways on how to teach reading. We can do the scanning, visualizing, activating the prior knowledge, and then before we could even proceed to writing. And more importantly, the teacher should always assess the students on their weaknesses. Kaya on the start of the class, you really have to assess your students. What are their weaknesses, so that we can apply the rule of the thumb. Start where your students are. So that's really still indispensable. And I don't really advise reading Wattpad. I don't advise my students to read Wattpad. Why? Because some of the contents of Wattpad and the concept are really vulgar. So I really still encourage them to read classic novels, read books, the hard copies. Okay, it's fine if you will use the e-copies or read e-books, that's fine. But still, we have to teach our students the love of reading using the physical copy of the book, because it's way different if you read it online and if you're reading the physical copy. So these are just the common struggles that students are encountering in the senior high school. Basically, some of them are not oriented in reading, not oriented in writing. They're formatting. I'm really strict with the formatting whenever I ask them to write literary works or activities. The formatting is very important when you teach creative nonfiction. How are they going to write the biography, the autobiography, if they do not know the basics? Sometimes teachers really neglect the basics, like the formatting, the indentation, what's the margin, where should we indent, where should we change the paragraph, or how do we start another paragraph. The formatting, basically the margin, indentation. So I advise that we teachers should really be concerned with the basics before we go to the more complicated part of our lesson. And lastly, I would advise that it's still indispensable to always be concerned with how our students would really learn. You really have to ask them personally what are their struggles, or how do we start, so that we would know how do we start teaching them. So that's the only thing that I could share based on my teaching experience and based on the strategies that I use in our school. Thank you. Bye bye.